tomorrow, and the Wilson, in fact, is falling slowly already, as is the Sandy and the Johnson Creek. The Clackamas River should stay steady tonight and then fall. The Molalla will crest early on Friday. The Tualatin at a record flood, and it should crest late on Friday. The South Yamhill is cresting now. Some of the rivers in the south end of the Willamette Valley are beginning to fall slowly, but slowly is probably the key word here. In eastern Oregon, snowmelt is the problem. The Umatilla is still rising. The North Fork of the John Day is still rising. Grand Ronde will crest tomorrow, as will the John Day, and the Deschutes actually is falling slowly right now. Here's a look at how we compare historically. We had earlier been looking at a peak of 30 feet. That doesn't appear to be the case now. We've backed that off a little bit. But you can see we've had floods up above 30 feet in the historic past, and we can have big floods. They're not really all that unusual in the history of the river. They may be unusual in the lifetime of an individual, but this river has been here for a long time, and these kind of floods, I'm sure, will occur again. Look at the rainfall totals in the last 24 hours. Over 4 inches on the northern Oregon coast, over 2 inches in the north end of the Willamette Valley. Those are 24-hour rainfall totals. Look at the totals for the last 4 days, and you see why we had the problem. Over 8 inches in Eugene, almost 9 inches, over 13 inches at Tillamook. Now, these are low-lying areas. You can generally double these amounts when you get into the Cascade foothills and into the Coast Range. So lots of rain. East of the Cascades, not as much rain, but warm temperatures have been melting snows. And that's the reason for the flooding there. Temperatures in the 40s and 50s and even some 60s east side, 65 the high today in Pendleton, 60s through the Willamette Valley as well. In fact, it was 70 degrees, a record high temperature for the date in Medford, so some very warm weather. That will change. We'll see the temperatures dropping back into the 50s tomorrow. And in fact, much of the country will see fairly mild weather with 50s in the northern tier of states, all the way up to 80 degrees in Brownsville, Texas. Quick look at weather around the nation shows it is raining along the east coast. There's a weather front moving through that part of the country, and of course the wet weather back up here in the Pacific Northwest. This is what's left to come. Our latest satellite picture shows there's still, it looks to be about 125 to 150 miles worth of clouds off the coast. That needs to push on through before it turns drier, and that will happen overnight tonight. The jet stream is setting up with, we have dry weather over us now, but the jet stream has a little dip in it behind this system. That's what's supporting it. That's all that's left that's supporting it now, a rather minor trough here. But the jet stream will bulge up to the north by Saturday, and we'll have sunny weather. At the surface, we'll actually have weak offshore flow, some east winds, light through the Columbia Gorge, to give us some sunshine on Saturday. And in fact, it looks like this big ridge of high pressure will likely be with us next 6 days. We'll have a 6-day forecast in just a minute. Here's the short-term forecast. Rain ending this evening as the remains of this front pushes on through, but still some locally heavy rain tonight. Showers, and then clearing tomorrow. The showers actually fairly widely scattered and will end fairly quickly. The rain should end during the evening hours, late evening hours tonight or early tomorrow morning, but right now we're still leaning towards before midnight for the rain to cut off. Showers and then clearing tomorrow through the valleys with high temperatures a little cooler in the mid-50s. Rain turning to showers, and the showers ending tomorrow. Snow level about 4,000 feet. And east of the Cascades, rain overnight, showers and clearing periods tomorrow. And for the Columbia Gorge, same story. We'll see some rain yet overnight tonight, but it should end and then turn to showery weather, and the showers will decrease fairly rapidly. And by tomorrow, some sunshine through the Columbia Gorge. The rain should end tonight. It will turn showery. When I say rain, I mean the steady rain. The showers imply a stopping and starting to the rain. The showers then will gradually decrease, and there's still a chance for a shower early tomorrow. But by afternoon, some sunshine and 52 degrees. And by the weekend, we should see a lot of sunshine. After some morning fog on Saturday, plenty of sunshine on Sunday and Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. Cool at night with temperatures in the 30s, but mild during the day with temperatures in the 50s. Be a lot of cleanup work to do, and it looks like weather's going to cooperate and give us a chance to do that.
Yeah, well, we are particularly interested in this flood because we're smack dab in the middle of the flood zone, and some of our neighbors are making preparations, aren't they?
That's right. Beginning last night, businesses and offices down on 1st, 2nd, and Front in the downtown Portland area on the west side of the Willamette River began removing some perishable items, valuable things that they didn't want to get wet. Local merchants and volunteers all day have been placing sandbags in front of shops and restaurants as far up, as I said, as 3rd Avenue. Several places closed early this afternoon, but before they left, the owners placed merchandise and equipment onto desks and shelves. The owners of a popular bakery say they're worried about losing ingredients.
No flood insurance? Who would ever think that you would need flood insurance? I wouldn't. Most business owners don't have it, and I never imagined this. It's just wild.
Meantime, Front Avenue and side streets connecting Front Avenue are closed while emergency crews wait and watch the waters rise. And the Army Corps of Engineers spokesman called us a little while ago, wants to correct a wrong impression some people have. The Corps is not releasing water from the big dams upstream. They are actually, they tell us, storing water. And with the decrease in rainfall the next few days, there will be less to store. So that, too, is good news.
We've told you that we don't need any more volunteers in Portland, but they sure do in Marion County. They have asked you to call 588-5304 if you can help out, 588-5304. They really need some help in Marion County. Let's go to Sandy James, who is standing by at the seawall watching the water rise. Sandy?
Hi, just follow the action there, Art. Yep, you can see this is what's happening. This is the busiest part of the evening so far. We've got these equipment trucks bringing in those concrete barriers that I was telling you about earlier. They're starting down at Salmon Spring. They're putting them perpendicularly up against the wall, and they're going to do that clear down to the Burnside and beyond. So there is a lot of that activity going on right now. Let's take a look at the water line. Here we go again. I feel like I'm at a fundraiser. Let's take a look at how much the tote board is showing tonight. But actually, we are right at the 26th level now, so it has risen about an inch or so. Still, I do believe it's slowing down. It's not rising as fast as it has earlier today. I wanted to show you something over here if you get a little bit better perspective as to how high this wall is that they built. Let's take a look on down over the wall. Now, you can see right below me there where the sandbags are. That is the sea wall. That's about at the 28-foot level. And so this plywood reinforcement, if you will, with the 2x4s, that adds about another 4 feet. So we're talking about 32 feet here before the water would start coming over. And hopefully that's just not going to happen. Also, the last time we talked, they had not actually raised the Hawthorne Bridge. But as we look down that way now, we can see, excuse me, sir, we can see that, yes, in fact, they have raised the Hawthorne. So now we've got the Hawthorne and Burnside bridges up, no traffic going across. And as you mentioned just a little bit ago, Front Avenue downtown is closed. So that's pretty much about the latest from here. You know, if all this activity weren't going on because there was imminent danger, it'd be kind of neat out here because it's really beautiful. All the evening lights, obviously, and there's some hustle and bustle, and people are still down here all willing to help out. So it's really kind of a nice night, too, and I just hope everything ends up being not nearly as bad as they think in this area. At least I know there's been some other areas that have really had some terrible devastation. So we can hope that things stay down here.
Sandy, how far downriver are they going to continue to work? You said the Burnside Bridge and beyond.
Well, they told me they were going to go a little over 100 yards beyond the Burnside Bridge. They said as far as the railing goes, and they estimate that's about 100 yards.
So what happens beyond that area? Is it higher?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know. I think they were still working on those plans when we last spoke to them.
Okay. Thank you, Sandy James, reporting tonight from the seawall.
Enjoying a romantic evening there by the Big Muddy.
With her fundraiser.
Yeah. Portland State University has canceled all classes right now to Alexa.
The state of Oregon. Not all of those are state highways. Some of them are. Let's check in now with Ron Shealy, who's with the Oregon Department of Transportation. Ron, good to talk to you again today. What are you worried about right now from your perspective?
Well, not only worried about the earth continuing to move above a lot of our highways and the rain continuing to fall, but kind of worried about the morning commute. We saw how bad the evening commute was tonight, especially I-5 southbound. We have a slide between Corbett and Terwilliger. We have some heavy-duty trucks coming in and a contractor to help us out. We have about 500 cubic yards blocking 2 lanes of roadway. We're hoping by the commute time to get 2 lanes out of the 3 open. But then again, things could change. Once we start cleaning up the mess, more of that material starts coming down, but we're hoping for the best.
I think we're looking at I-84 and the mudfall that's gone across that highway. Ron, how are cleanup efforts going up there?
Slowly. It's very unsafe up there right now. That is still an active slide. What we're hoping to do in the next day or two is clear off the westbound lanes and maybe squeeze traffic in 1 in each direction. But again, our geologists are telling us this thing is still active. If we get in there too deep, it could be very, very dangerous. Fortunately, we do have Highway 26 to Oregon 35 as a detour at this point. That's about an 80-mile detour, but at least people can get through. It's going to take them a while, though.
How about I-5 South? We heard earlier that water problems around the Salem interchanges were reducing traffic to one lane. Is that the major problem there, or do we have more that we don't know about?
Well, that's a problem really anywhere you go. If you go to the coast, in the Coast Range, you have problems. If you try and get over the passes, you have problems there as well. Yeah, I-5 interchange down there, that's part of that widening project, and I'm sure that's just a soupy mess down there. And then as you continue on south of Salem, a lot of standing water and a lot of cliffs that could come down at any time. Another area that we're concerned about right now, again, is US 30. That's been giving us trouble. Way out on about milepost, I believe, 57. That's out by Rainier. It's completely closed due to high water and slides. And really, you name it, it's all over the place. We have problems on Barber Boulevard, a couple of different areas with pretty large slides right now as well.
All right, Ron Sheely, ODOT, we appreciate your bringing us up to date. Check in with us again, Ron, if you would, and keep us apprised.
Well, Barbara Wood's been tracking the Columbia River. She joins us from Vancouver now with the very latest. Barbara?
Hey, Jeff. We got sandbaggers over here. This is one of the few locations left in Clark County where they're still sandbagging. Pretty much the lights are out at any other location. So if you're looking for sandbags, and more importantly, if you're looking to volunteer to bag some of this sand, come on down to 9th Street and Columbia Street. That's where they're doing it over here. Let's take a look at some of these trucks. Can we show some of these cabs over here? Mitchell Brothers, okay, that's located down by the port. Another one of those low-lying areas. They requested permission from the city to park some of their rigs up here, and the city said sure, so they're using this 5-block area, the Old Lucky Brewery site. And let's get back to you in the studio right now.
Okay, Barbara Wood on the scene in Vancouver. So the sandbag efforts continue not only down on the seawall here in Portland, but also over on the Columbia, where there's a lot of fear that Columbia is going to rise and damage businesses.
That's right. Here's Ed Teachout in Salem. Ed, come on, tell us what you got.
Well, Paul, we're here in between High Street and Church Street in downtown Salem. Now, behind me, you can see the pumps working really hard trying to keep the water out of this building. This is the Safe Corporation's building, where they've had it sandbagged and pumping water out since yesterday. Now, since you see where the water level is right here at ground level? Well, you'd think, well, not that bad, but believe it or not, 12 feet below this is totally submerged, and that's why that pump's working so hard. But everyone here is, like down in Portland, is fearing what the Willamette might do. So let me tell you, they've brought in a big baby here. This pump pumps 4,000 gallons of water a minute. And if something happens to that, the Willamette comes out, they're going to let that baby take over. But in Kaiser, they're having a little bit of a different protection of a different kind. National Guardsmen are now watching over more than 5,000 homes in Kaiser. Residents had until 4 o'clock today to pack up what they could and get out.
So that's why we're out trying to get everybody to leave.
You want us out by 4?
Yeah, it would be advisable before 4. I mean, you're looking at 3:15 right now.
But some say they won't leave.
Not if I still got things on the ground in there.
The Wagners did finally go, but before they did, they put everything they had as high as they could get it.
I need 2 more guys in here for an antique dresser.
Others got out with the help of family, friends, and a lot of hard work.
These are wonderful friends and family. I just can't believe it. My boss came, my friends came from Dallas, our son. The world is really nice with people like this.
In Salem, the damage caused by Mill Creek is starting to soak in. Still, everyone continues to fight the flood.
Folks who just come by and started helping out. There's some gentlemen here helping us out with sandbagging who just saw us doing the work and pitched in, and there's been at least 6 of them.
At 35 feet, 7 feet above flood stage, the Willamette continues to rise, but it's got a tough battle to soak through the spirit of the people here.
Adios, everybody.
That, of course, up in north of Kaiser right now, more than 8,000 people evacuated from their homes. Everyone standing by here, just hoping and praying that the Willamette doesn't break over the dike there at Kaiser and floods all those homes that are in there. Because if it does rise as high as earlier predicted, they expect that will happen. But it sounds like what we've been hearing from Matt Zaffino, that the level might not go that high, and everyone here is hoping that doesn't happen. So right now, everyone in Salem here, in the center part of town, things are starting to go down a little bit from some of the streams already, which is helping out a little bit. But everyone just keeping their eye on that Willamette River. Back to you guys.
All right, Ed, speaking of Salem, let us remind our viewers that the city of Salem is now recommending evacuations in some areas, and we can tell you what they are. West of Commercial Street, all areas north of Commercial and Columbia, 4th and Pine, Locust and Maple. Recommended evacuation notices in effect for West Salem. That's the area bounded by Elm, Kingwood Avenue to the foot of Hill East, then to the Willamette River.
We saw the evacuations going on in Kaiser. It was at mid-morning, they evacuated 9,000 to 12,000 people there. They urged them to evacuate and to get out of the area by 1 o'clock. We have the mayor of Kaiser on the phone. Mayor Coe, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay, what's the latest situation in Kaiser?
Well, we've successfully evacuated those areas that we intended, and the river at this point has stabilized, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that it stays at something just about 1 foot under what it would take to go over the top of the dike.
Dennis, how many people do you figure have evacuated the Kaiser area tonight? Any way to estimate that?
Not a good way. We're pretty certain it's 8 to 10,000.
8 to 10,000 folks, and where are they staying tonight?
Well, 90% of them are with friends or commercial housing of some sort. The Red Cross estimates it's about 10% of them that find housing in a shelter, and that's we've got about 350 currently in a shelter at Whitaker Middle School.
And those are the pictures we're looking at as they started to evacuate. Dennis Coho, the mayor of Kaiser, we appreciate the latest update. As Dennis mentions, about 8,000 people in Kaiser not being able to spend the night in their homes. They were forced to evacuate today.
Let's bring you up to the minute with the latest information we have from the region. The Willamette River is expected to still go over the seawall at about 11 o'clock tonight, and we're going to continue to follow that for you until that progresses. It will crest, though, and this is the good news, at 29 feet tomorrow morning, not 30. That's a foot lower than the earlier projections, and in fact 2 feet lower than the projection we were dealing with yesterday. Hundreds worked to shore up the wall. The wall is in good shape. They're about to add those concrete T bars to it so that the plywood is really held in with the sandbagging there, and we should be ready for whatever comes down the Willamette tonight.
Okay, let's check on reinforcements along the Columbia. Let's switch back to Barbara Wood, who joins us now. Barbara?
Hey there, we got more than 50 volunteers here. We're at 9th and Columbia Streets. They're bagging sand. We're going to talk with one of them now. Sir, what'd you say your name was?
I'm Glenn Pierce.
Glenn Pierce. Okay, well, we don't want to interrupt you while you're sandbagging there, but tell us, what brings you down here on a night like tonight? You gave up your time.
Well, everybody needs to help out in times like this, so it's the least I could do.
All right. And what's your situation? Whereabouts do you live?
Oh, I live up in the Heights, so I'm high and dry, so I'm appreciating being dry, but it's good to help out somebody else.
And what types of things have you seen over the course of the day?
Well, I work downtown Portland, so you want to fill it up. So I've seen the water rising up against the seawall downtown, and coming home, how high it's getting out here at Jansen Beach. So it's kind of scary, actually.
Hey, what'd you think when you passed over that I-5 bridge?
Yeah, that was a little freaky, because it's getting up really close to the dike. So I'm just glad I don't live by the river.
Hey, well, I know you're used to seeing that chart house sign.
Yeah. Husong and Larry's and the chart house is buried underwater. It looks like it's right up to the deck, so they don't have far to go before they've got some real problems.
Well, that's for sure. Hey, listen, thanks for letting us interrupt you.
You bet.
All right. Well, as you can see, a lot of folks around here. Here's this guy. He lives up in the Heights. He's got no problems, but he figures he's going to come down and help out the people who do. Back to you guys in the studio.
Okay, Barbara Wood on patrol for us in Vancouver. And as Barbara mentions, as you come over the bridge there, those familiar landmarks, the chart house, Husong's and Larry's, and the water's right up there, right up on the deck there.
We should say, too, Jeff, to others living in Vancouver, if you need sandbags in your residence, Pam Brinkley, the county PIO over in Clark County, tells us that Leverage Park is the place you need to go. They have sand, they have bags there. You need to bring a shovel, and they'll give you everything you need. If you've got a personal situation you need to take care of at home. Back to, well, I think right now we're looking back at Vancouver again, but we want to talk for a minute about the Willamette and Mayor Vera Katz, who was out and touring the city tonight. I think we have some video of that we'll get to shortly. Here we go. The mayor's been real good today, Jeff, about keeping the citizenry informed. She's had regular news conferences throughout the day at mid-morning, then again late this afternoon, and she brings city officials together to let everybody know precisely what is going on. But here she is directly involved, obviously before nightfall, out and checking the work along the seawall. Some of the things the mayor told us today at her last news conference, she's asking citizens to conserve water. Of course, we're no longer using Bull Run water, and our water is in short supply, so use it sparingly. Use the phones only for emergency purposes to keep the lines open. And she said there was no impact expected from the high water on the Willamette on the east side of the river. Just the west side is the focus of concern tonight. She had these further comments for us.
It's a miracle. There are people here in the city that when somebody calls them to do some work like I did, they came with their hammers and their nails, and we could not have finished that without them. So bless their hearts. They're a wonderful asset to the city. They love the city, and they'll come down and do what needs to be done.
Mayor Vera Katz on the scene down at the Willamette.
Earlier this morning, our camera crews were down at the Willamette. I want to show you the river gauge on the Willamette from early this morning when it was registering, I'd say, about 23 feet. That was early this morning. Now it's risen about 3 feet since then. It's now sitting at about 26 feet. But this is from early this morning at 23 feet. You see it go up. This was later this afternoon at 25. And this evening, we are at about 26 feet. And that is from a little earlier. Hey, Bob High's down there by the Willamette and Waterfront Park. Bob, what's the latest?
Well, Jeff, I got to tell you, there's some weird things going on. First, this step that you see, the last step down here that's very wide compared to these other ones, that was dry when we got here a half an hour ago. It's now covered with water. 8 more steps to go as I count them until this gets up to the top of these stairs here at Salmon Street Springs. A couple of odd things. We were looking down. If you can see it in the background of the lights that are left on the Hawthorne Bridge, half the lights are out because the electricity is off. In the background of that is the Markham Bridge. We see police officers on the top of the Markham Bridge. The lights are out on the Markham Bridge, or at least half of the Markham Bridge. Why, we don't know. They went out a few minutes ago, and we can only surmise that there is a problem of some sorts with the lighting on the bridge. So if people are using that bridge tonight, be very, very careful. We don't see any electricity up there at all. Why, we don't know yet. Come on over here, and we'll give you a look at why, kind of a reference point. If you've been down here at all and seen the Spirit of Portland, you know how big that ship is. We're going to give you an idea of just how big it is. If the ship were docked here now as it normally is, that ship would be as tall, or taller actually, than the lights you're looking at now. It would rise above those lights. That gives you an idea of how far this river's come up from where it normally is. That ship is normally just about at the seawall level. Preparations here are finished. The sandbagging operation is complete. And for now, people are just waiting, watching, and wondering just how long it will be before the river comes up and tests the barricades that are prepared here along Waterfront Park.
The experts say, Bob, you have about 3 hours and 4 minutes to wait for that.
We'll be waiting.
We'll see how it does. Hey, one of the good stories out of this, and there always are some, comes from Oaks Park. Now, you've seen our video from the air and otherwise. Oaks Park is underwater, and you know about the roller rink over there. What a loss that would be. It's alive and swimming. It's in that big building right there on the right. Volunteers and employees went in last night and literally cut the rink loose with chainsaws. There are numerous steel drums under the rink to help float it. It began floating at about 5:30 tonight. It's doing just fine. There are 10 employees sitting in the middle of the roller rink floor for ballast. See, the floor was ruined in '48, and the drum and cutting solution was devised for the '64 flood. It was saved then. It's being saved now. The quote from the people at Oaks is, "We planned for this flood, and we feel that all is going according to plan at this time." Can you imagine, Jeff? They literally take chainsaws, cut the floor loose, and let it float on drums.
Isn't that just neat? And there's 10 folks sitting there tonight for ballast. I love that. And some other good news, Paul. We had reported on emergency crews on the scene at Fanno Creek at Durham Road. Some kids were on some kind of raft. It was feared that one of the kids had fallen into Fanno Creek. Good news, the child is not missing. Everyone's been accounted for, so there's some other good news to come out of all of this. And I want to show you some fantastic pictures, especially if you're just getting home. Listen to this.
I knew I should have gotten out of here. Something was telling me.
This is a mudslide. You're seeing it as it happened on the West Hills right off of West Burnside below Pittock Mansion. Look at that. And this slide actually damaged some cars and some trucks. No one was hurt, but Frank Munjum, one of our producers, was there with his camera. He caught this on video. Actual mudslide there in the West Hills. And Paul, if you've driven around there, all throughout the West Hills, various mudslides, too numerous to mention. Shoals Ferry between Raleigh Hills and Highway 26 shut down. 5 or 6 mudslides along there. And this is the scene repeated in the West Hills. Not far from there, a house is sitting precariously over the edge. Its foundation coming close to starting to fall apart tonight.
The West Hill is always susceptible to slides, Jeff, as you well know, and we see them all the time on Highway 26 and Upper Burnside and the like. But what we're seeing this time around are these residential slide situations. We don't normally see this where the vegetation is ingrown over the years and things are well settled. The pickup truck in front of that mess belongs to a contractor who owns the ladder and catwalk work that you see there in front of the lens, and he's just standing there watching. He had a couple of comments. He said, "I knew I should have got out of here. I was warned." And then as the mud flow got further down the hill with his pickup truck being smashed in front of it, he said, "Oh my God, I'm out of business."
Well, here's some more home video from Molalla, Paul. They just pulled that truck out of the river, and so he has some damage there. A lot of folks out there with the home video cameras, and there's Tony's fish market. A favorite place there. We're in the fish feeling quite at home there at Tony's today because those floodwaters moved right in there rather quickly.
Well, the people in Molalla are without water. They lost their pump house completely. We talked with the city engineer out there this morning, and it's unknown when that pump house will get back. So folks in Molalla, I don't know if they've got an alternate supply for that city as yet, but there is no water for residents in Molalla.
Okay, you're watching KATU Channel 2, the Spirit of the Northwest, our continuous storm coverage here in Portland, Oregon. Let's switch now to Matt Zaffino with more. And I know, Matt, you're carefully watching the river levels throughout the state. What's the latest?
That's right, Jeff. What I've been doing is actually speaking into the phone over the last 10 minutes or so. We now have 2 access code numbers that I want to give you. There's so many rivers, I've split it up. One is for Western Oregon and the Columbia River, and the other one, and that's, I haven't even had time to get all this on my chart here, but the 2215 is for Western Oregon, the 2214 is for Northeast Oregon and Western Washington. So if you're interested in the latest river levels, you can call those numbers, and I just recently updated those. The forecast, I can tell you what's going on with that. We're going to see the rain end around 10 o'clock tonight. It's light rain and light winds out at Astoria right now, so that is certainly encouraging news. And tomorrow we will see some sunshine finally, as a matter of fact. Things are looking much better in that regard. In fact, here's that 5-day forecast. You can see we've got, well, a lot of days of sunshine coming along right on through Tuesday and even into Wednesday and Thursday. What I'm trying to do here is advance my computer to a point that I can get to where I want to show you something. So we'll look at some of these storm totals. Here are the rain totals for today. You can see we had a lot of rain on the coast, almost 5 inches in Tillamook, but these are all going to come to an end very, very shortly here. Here's the most recent satellite picture. It hasn't changed a whole lot. I'm still looking at this back edge out here, and that should be coming through town within a couple hours. I still look for the main rain to shut off around 10 o'clock. We may have to push that back to maybe 11 o'clock or midnight by now. This storm is a slow mover, but nonetheless, I am looking for improvement in our weather conditions. As a matter of fact, let's take a look at the most recent radar chart and see what we can find there. Still socked in. See that line, that thin line right in there just to the north of my jet stream here? Very heavy rain there through what looks like East Multnomah County and through a good part of Clackamas County. But it's a thin line. We can take encouragement in that. So that's what's going on here in the Weather Center. Still tracking the rain. Oops, wrong picture. It's still coming down pretty hard. It is going to let up, though, later on this evening, and we'll give you the latest information on the river levels. The Willamette River is still forecast to crest now at 29 feet tomorrow morning as opposed to the 30 feet, which was originally forecast. There's a look at the latest river itself. That's the river level gauge on the Morrison Bridge that we were just looking at. One of the reasons why these numbers change is that the folks at the River Forecast Center get new information put into their models. You get new information on how much rain is falling and how the ground systems are handling all that water. So if you're wondering why that's changing, it's a dynamic system. It changes just like weather forecasting, and as you know, those forecasts can change as well. So that's the latest from the Weather Center. Steve, Paul, back to you guys.
Meteorologist Matt Zaffino. Thanks, Matt. I think I'm seeing that 6 start to disappear on that weather gauge, too. Yeah. We're going to have to check that very closely.
Well, Paul, up to the minute, every 15 minutes, we want to let you know the latest information. There are now 15,000 evacuations in Oregon. Sandbag volunteers are needed in Vancouver. And a 62-year-old woman remains missing. Her home was swept into the Sandy River in Troutdale last night. She is still missing tonight. So that is the latest up to the minute, every 15 minutes right here on Channel 2 during our storm coverage.
You heard the call. They need sandbaggers over in Vancouver, and that is literally, in this case, people who put sand in bags. Barbara Wood has been visiting with them tonight. Barbara?
Yeah, I sure have. Take a look at these mounds of sand that come from Port of Vancouver, and this is what they're trying to bag, because this is pretty much some of what it's going to take to keep most of these places protected. And by the way, say what you like about the youth of today. There are a couple of them out here, and they are working hard. Excuse me, what's your name?
Cameron Hummels.
Where are you from?
I'm from Hazeldale.
What made you decide to come out here tonight? Is Hazeldale under threat?
Well, Klein Line is a little bit, but I don't know, we'd rather be doing this than homework, so. What time is it? Do you know? I think we've been doing this for 3 hours, so 4 hours.
And you're going to continue this for how long?
Until we get tired. I don't know.
Hey, look, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
And you're right. The call for volunteers is urgent. It's still out there. You can see they've got mounds and mounds and mounds of sand to bag before it's all said and done. We talked with the man who's coordinating the effort. He said that they're really trying to put these bags together because there are a lot of locations here in downtown that aren't protected at the moment, but he encourages anyone to come down and volunteer, and if you need bags of your own, you can get them too. Now, if you notice, these bags are plastic bags, and I asked him, you know, well, gee, won't these turn into flotation devices? And he says no, they've got lots and lots of sand in each of these bags. The bags are very big bags, and once you mount them up, you should have a pretty good wall of sand, a good wall of protection for your home or office, so come on down.
I'm glad you asked, Barbara. I was afraid to. I haven't seen that clear visqueen used for sandbagging before, but they know what they're doing. So,
well, bottom line was that, you know, they ran out of anything else, and if you need it, you get it, and here it is.
Yeah,
that's
well,
right.
Thanks for asking, because I was wondering. I was afraid to ask.
Not far from there, from Barbara's location, the Red Lion, the inn at the Key there, they moved some of the guests out of there just as a precaution. So no danger there, though.
You're looking at I-5 North in the Woodland Kalama area at that big slide that went across the freeway, across two Burlington Northern tracks, and we talked with officials earlier today about this one, Jeff, and this is going to be some time in the cleanup. I don't know if this is what they consider an active slide or not, but it was interesting to talk to Ron Sheely earlier about the slide near Dutton on I-84 and saying, gee, Ron, when's that one going to be open? He says, we don't know. Our engineers consider it an active slide. Well, look at this. I would consider that an active slide. Stuff still coming down, and the indication from Mr. Sheely with the Oregon Department of Transportation is the engineers are afraid to let men and equipment and workers get in there when the thing is still moving around. So we are kind of sealed off to the north. We are kind of sealed off to the east, and traffic is still moving in and out of the south at a slow rate of speed, given the slide on the Twilliger curves and the high water problems down at the Salem exchange. But we are almost sealed off in all directions in this town, given high water in every direction.
And we've just been talking about the major roads. There are so many, as you mentioned, Paul, hundreds of little highways and little streets that are completely blocked off. We can't even mention them all. We're just covering the major ones right now. We are going to take a break from our storm coverage. We'll be right back after this, and we'll have the latest pictures and information for you.
In coverage of the flood of 1996, the live picture you just saw from Vancouver where they're sandbagging. This is the river gauge on the Morrison Bridge, where we can see that the number 6 has now disappeared. The water is climbing, expected to get up to its highest point at about 11 o'clock tonight, but it looks like we're a little bit past 26 feet right now. Jeff Gianola and Paul Lindman bringing you all the information we possibly can. We've got an able team backing us up, to include Mr. Steve Dunn, who's down at the seawall following things down there. Steve?
Yeah, guys, a little more activity down here now as the guys with the cement barriers get a little bit closer to us. They're still a ways down, but expected to make it here over the next couple hours or so. You know, a lot of strange things have gone down here throughout the last couple of days. Earlier, of course, we saw Ron Peterson pull the golf rake out of the river and what have you. Got a gentleman here who witnessed something strange on the river just about 10, 20 minutes ago. Max Jeffrey, you want to step in here, please, and tell the folks what you saw?
Yeah, two of the Foss Maritime tugboats were trying to get a barge attached from the wall here, and they were going to take it upstream, but the current was so swift they had to let go with one tug, and the barge just spun the other tugboat around and it went downstream.
How far from us did that happen?
About 100 yards down here. That was about it.
So we don't know where that thing ended up.
No, there's still a tugboat attached to it, so I don't know where it's going to end up at.
Oh my goodness, I'm telling you, thank you very much, Max, right there. So the search is on for that as we speak. We'll see what more we can find out about that. For the time being, again, they're just waiting for the river to rise here. When I first got here, it was just under 26 feet at the seawall. It is now just over 26 feet, and the rain is coming down pretty hard again as we speak. So we will keep you posted. Back to you for now.
The latest on Matt is that the rain should stop. From Matt is that the rain should stop 10 or 11 o'clock tonight. We'll go as high as 28.8 tonight, but only 29 past that about tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. when the river crests. So we're getting real close, a couple of feet away.
Okay, one guy who's been up since early this morning covering the storm from Oregon City, Ken Cole. Ken, the latest from your location now.
Well, we're moving all around town here. We're now at 14th and Washington in the heart of Oregon City, northeast Oregon City. You can see we've got a good 3-4 feet of water here in the section of this road. That has not stopped a lot of folks from driving right through here. There's been some very tall rigs that are kind of joyriding around here. Folks on ATVs, in fact, are roaming around this exact street here. Pretty much human nature to play around with this kind of a challenge, I guess. But it's really causing some folks some problems over here. But that has not stopped them from having a good sense of humor about it. I want to come over here and show you the Tony's Market. This is the fish market here. And you can see the water is pretty much going right through into the store itself. But you can also read what they have here: closed, out buying scuba gear, out swimming in the front lawn. And this one, don't you just love Oregon's rain? So these folks, obviously their business is really definitely affected by this high water here, but they're still keeping their sense of humor. It looks like they managed to get a lot of this stuff out of here. But you can also imagine the kind of mess these folks are going to have when they return, because this kind of water is pretty much just sewer water off the river, and it leaves a tremendous stench, and you're going to have to rip out carpets, you're going to have to replace paneling, and it's just a real mess out here. And we're looking over again over at the water. You can see barely down the street there is an ATV. This guy's been roaming back and forth. He's pretty high up on that rig, but I don't know if I'd want to be roaming around in what is basically sewer water. There's a lot of health problems with this kind of thing, and I hope these guys make sure they wash up before they touch their hands to their mouth or anything like that, because there are a lot of infectious agents in this water, animal waste, things like that. Okay, well, that's the latest from Oregon City. As you can see, plenty of high water here. There's no shortage of that in Oregon City tonight.
Okay, that is a good health reminder, and health officials have been reminding everybody, don't touch the water, don't come in contact, especially the little kids who might get outside. Be very, very careful. Some of the folks doing cleanup work are have buckets of bleach there, Paul, bleach water to disinfect, because that water has sewage in it, so you got to be careful.
Watch your youngsters, kids especially, are apt to get into that water and play and take their little rafts out or whatever, but most of these storm drains are also carrying sewer water, and that's where this stuff comes from. Okay, let's talk about Tillamook. If you've lived here any time at all, you know that we usually go to Tillamook in the spring to cover the floods. The Wilson River, the creeks usually cross their banks. Nothing like we're seeing now, as Grant McComey tells us.
Today in Tillamook, they needed a break, but not this, a break in a dike holding back a river. The last thing they needed here in Tillamook was even more water, but that's exactly what's happened along the Tillamook River. Here you can see the dike is giving way to the Tillamook River, which is cascading right over its edges. Emergency crews scrambled to evacuate farms by boat, the only way to get around Tillamook. Dan Landolt and his family waited as long as they could, watching over their cows and their future.
We threw them about 30 bales of hay, and hopefully they'll be all right.
How scary was the night?
It was a long one. I haven't slept. I haven't slept. It's been 2 days solid.
Worried if we're going to have any cows left. We're scared we've lost everything.
That is the lifeblood down here in this county, isn't it?
Yeah, we've worked real hard to get the cows we have, and now we may lose it all. And this may be the only thing we have here.
At KTIL, they worried the town's only radio station would go off the air.
If we have to leave here, there's not going to be any communication in the county, and now it's getting very tenuous.
We're telling everybody to stay home unless you absolutely have to be someplace, a medical emergency. Don't go out, so please stay home.
That was not a problem in Tillamook, where Highway 101 looked like a watery ghost town. Here, a murky lake over 8 feet deep and a mile long hides scores of submerged cars. But neighbors didn't hide their spirit, pitching in to help farmers rescue livestock up toward higher ground before it was too late. And late today, when they didn't think it could get worse, it did on the Wilson River. This mile-long logjam is now barreling toward Tillamook, promising another sleepless night for a community trying to stay afloat. In Tillamook, Grant McComey, Channel 2 News.
Total number, 1,200 estimated lost dairy cows. Most of those calves and yearlings just not strong enough to get through, Jeff, and they can last so long and then they give up. Yeah. And that's a sad, sad situation. KTIL, Van Moo's radio station, where Mildred Davies on the air every day, went off the air today at 5, and Tillamook is trying to hook up with some other radio stations further south on the coast. They need information to get through this, and so I hope they are able to hook up with some broadcasters down there, but KTIL, their broadcast lifelong, is off the air right now.
Okay, we're looking at pictures of Hayden Island from earlier today, and some folks there started voluntarily getting out of their homes today. There was a lot of folks wheeling their belongings up on the deck and into their cars. They were not going to battle with that mighty Columbia, and we should mention the Red Lion Inn at the Key. They evacuated their guests there just as a precaution tonight, and they moved them to the Ferryman's Motel in downtown Vancouver. So the flood of '96 affecting a lot of folks tonight. Stay with Channel 2 News for our storm team coverage. We'll be right back, everybody.
The flood of 1996 is measured by the river gauge under the Morrison Bridge. We've exceeded 26 feet. We're going to 28.8 tonight. We'll crest at 29 tomorrow morning. And guess what? That's 8 inches shy of the big flood everybody around here talks about, the flood of 1964.
You know, the number you mentioned there, Paul, 28.8, that's a critical number because that's the point that they feel that the water will come up and over the seawall. We had an estimate that that could happen at about 11 o'clock tonight at 28.8, so we'll watch that very carefully. Of course, when we have weather like this, it causes all kinds of traffic accidents. This was the scene out in Tigard, and there it is right there. That's Fanno Creek right there, and we'll have that accident in just a minute, but this is Fanno Creek for all you residents out that way. That is causing a lot of problems, and folks, it's blocked some roads out there. They had trouble keeping some kids out of there from playing in the creek, so causing a lot of problems. Fanno Creek out there in Washington County.
We haven't seen this video yet, so we'll share it with you for the first time as we watch it as well. This creek, Jeff, goes through so much of the west side, the Beaverton, Raleigh Hills, Tigard area. It affects so many residents. It affects so many roadways. It affects so many apartment houses that when the water gets high, this is the one everybody talks about. I was joking the other day, I played in this creek and had a rope swing over it down in a community they used to call Glen Cullen, but it was never like this, and in all the years that I've lived here, which is all my life, I've never seen Fanno Creek looking quite like that.
Okay, we talked about the accidents. I think we have some video of an accident on I-5 in Tigard. Do we have that coming up? There were reports of numerous accidents today as folks made their way home, and this only delayed traffic even more. This was just a horrible accident, and already traffic moving slow because of the weather conditions. But with the high water, a lot of folks couldn't see that high water until they were right on top of it. That created a lot of skids, and we had some real problems out there on the commute home tonight. That was I-5 at Tigard a little bit earlier.
I'm surprised there haven't been more of these accidents, Chef. I had a tough time getting over here this morning from southwest Portland. You can see it's an injury accident as well. Everything is so jammed up. I mean, because of the slide in the outbound lanes on the Twilliger, that slows traffic going out of town, but it sure as heck slows traffic coming in too as people stop to look, at the rivers. I'm surprised we haven't had more. Our up-to-the-minute information is that the Willamette River is now over 26 feet. And it will be over the seawall, they're now estimating, at 2 a.m. This is new information. We were told, the experts thought it would be 11 p.m. Throughout most of the day. Now we're told 2 a.m. Mr. Gianola and myself find that to be amazing information because it might spell what we're going to be doing.
Yeah, we may be here a while tonight. Yeah, we may be here. I think Matt Zaffino's standing by. Matt, the river information seems to change hour by hour now.
That's right, Jeff. They're getting more up-to-date information down at the River Forecast Center, I suspect. They're feeding that into their computer models, which put all of this together. And so I mentioned this a few hours ago, that we'd likely see some of these forecast changes, and indeed we have. I hadn't heard of that 2 a.m. Forecast for the seawall until you guys brought it on. So that's interesting news that they have changed that. And we may see these river numbers change even more as we go through the next 12 to 24 hours. However, I do think that we're getting a better and better fix on this as we go along in time. So that's good news. We're at least the numbers aren't going up. They keep dropping, and that is certainly good news. You're looking at the river gauge on the Morrison Street Bridge, which is now at, looks like 26 and a few inches there. So we're still rising there. I have some numbers for you that will give you information on other rivers throughout Oregon and Washington. The flood report line, 291-6030, access code 2215 for Oregon rivers and the Columbia River. Northeast Oregon rivers and Washington rivers, I've now put on code 2214. So we had so many rivers, I had to split it on up into two lines, and there you go. I'll update that as the night continues, and we'll let you know on all the other rivers. One thing that I heard about earlier was out of the little town of Hewson, north of Hood River in Washington, and the small community of Glenwood, as I show you the forecast here, rain ending around 10 o'clock. Maybe I might push that. Anyway, back to that town in southwest Washington, or southern Washington anyway, the town of Glenwood. The whole town was going to be evacuated by air. That's been postponed until 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, or till tomorrow morning rather. I don't have a specific time. Apparently the only place in that whole town, it's a small town, I've been there, it's a nice little town, I have friends who have property there. The only place that's not underwater is the school. So I imagine it's a rough night for those folks out there in Glenwood. If you can hear us either by radio simulcast or television, we know of your situation, and they say that you're going to be evacuated tomorrow morning, so we'll keep you updated on that as well. Storm totals, these are just so impressive. Over 9 inches of rain in Eugene. This is all since Monday when the rains really began. Coast Range, Saddle Mountain, you can see that one. It looks just like a saddle from Astoria. You can see it from Longview too. 19.7 inches of rainwater, another 14.7 inches of snow melt water. That comes out to 34.4 inches of water in 4 days. And our normal precipitation in Portland for an entire year is only about 2 inches more than that. So it's no wonder we're having the flooding problems. Laurel Mountain, west of Salem, they've had about 2 feet of rain in the last 4 days. And other cities, as you see, Vancouver, 7.5 inches, 8 inches in Banks, and over almost 14 inches down in Kelso, or rather Tillamook. Here are the rain amounts from today. Also very impressive with Tillamook and Astoria over 4 inches. Portland again over 2 inches. All right, here's the latest radar situation. You can see we still have plenty and plenty of green on the screen. And you notice right here where my cursor is, and I'll circle it for you, you see the darker green and the yellows there? Never really changes. We've got, I think, a front that has become somewhat stationary, at least for the time being, right over northwest Oregon and southwest Washington. You notice that nothing really moves. You don't see the whole pattern moving. The echoes just kind of move in between there. That's an indication that this front is somewhat stationary. So we may see this rain last a little bit longer than I had originally forecasted to shut off around 10 o'clock. So that, unfortunately, is not good news. We are still going to see a few more hours of rain. I'm looking for this back edge to slip a little bit closer to the coast right here. It hasn't. It's made the coast at Washington here, and the rain has stopped throughout much of, south of Puget Sound, Olympia and Toledo. Also heard from a weather watcher on the north coast who said, hey, the rain is over, barometer's rising, they're getting some breaks in the clouds. So we are getting some breaks, but it's really going to be when this back edge slips on by that we see a real change in the weather. And in the meantime, all of our rain is now over in northeast Oregon, where the flooding problems are also quite extensive. Out in Pendleton, for instance, and the Umatilla County area, I'm getting reports of some very, very heavy rainfalls out that way. Major flooding on the Umatilla River, widespread field flooding, and let's see, half a mile of the road leading to the bridge on the Umatilla River is washed out, and half mile of the levee is washed out too. So it's a bad situation for our friends over in northeast Oregon. We're aware of that as well, and we'll keep you updated on the rivers and the weather here in the Channel 2 Weather Center. Jeff?
Okay, some great information, Matt, and I know you're busy back there, so you'll have the latest for us in just a few minutes.
We've been hearing from our friends in Salem who've asked us to repeat the recommended evacuation list. This from the city of Salem. The following areas: recommended evacuation west of Commercial Street, all areas north of Commercial and Columbia. 4th and Pine, Locust and Maple, and the area north of Locust to Portland Road. There's also a recommended evacuation notice in effect for West Salem. That's for the area bounded by Elm, Kingwood Avenue to the foot of the hill east to the Willamette River. And I believe we have some maps that will tell you those areas in a different form. Now, this is recommended evacuation. That's not what they had in Kaiser earlier in the day when the officials showed up and said, you folks have to leave. This is the city of Salem telling some of its residents, we think it's a good idea if you leave at this point. We hope that clarifies the information for folks down in Salem.
Well, look who's standing by. There's Steve Dunn down by the seawall here on the Waterfront Park in Portland. Hello, Steve.
Hi, Jeff. How you doing? You never know who you're going to find down here at the waterfront. Chief Charles Moose of Portland Police just wandered up. What brings you down here, sir?
Oh, just again continuing to check to see if the number of visitors is slowed down. Certainly checking the posts to see what the numbers are, and really impressed with the work done by the city here. And I've certainly got my fingers and toes crossed that we're going to be okay here.
It is mighty impressive work as you look up and down here and see the work that they did on this fence and everything, Chief. It looks pretty secure around here as far as being all cordoned off. You guys did a good job on that as well.
Yes, we are certainly still encouraging people to not come down and visit. That, again, is not entertainment, and also encouraging people to think seriously about a decision to come downtown tomorrow. That hope some people choose for a long weekend.
You getting a little nervous as you watch this get closer to the top of the seawall?
Oh, certainly nervous, and as we continue to ask people to consider evacuation at some of the more troubled places, hopefully that they start to make good decisions there, because it's getting more and more difficult to rescue people that choose to stay in some of the areas. So again, asking people to think about going somewhere else, relocating temporarily. There is going to be a closure to this, but again, to keep people safe, it's better if they don't come around, if they evacuate if we ask them to. But again, just stress that we don't need people coming gawking, that traffic, the gridlock, all of those things are additional problems for the city workers that are trying very, very hard to contain this problem.
Okay, get yourself some boots, will you?
Okay.
All right, there you have it. Chief Charles Moose down here. He says police have it secured tonight. So there you have it. Back to you guys.
Well, Jeff, or I'm sorry, Steve. You're Jeff. You're Steve. Before we leave you, give us a scene setter down there. Tell us what's happening around you, who's there, what's anticipated, and so forth.
Not much has changed at this point. I can tell you that, Paul. They just moved one of the concrete barriers down behind us. As I speak, they're doing that now. We'll try and get a picture of that a little bit later. But right now, it is raining fairly hard at this point, and just a lot of workers at this point. We just had a gentleman walk up to us about 5 minutes ago from a restaurant offering us a burrito. He's handing out burritos to folks who are working down here, and it was tempting, trust me. Yeah, but that's the scene at this point. Again, we're just waiting.
Tempting, Mike.
Tempting.
He took it.
You took it, didn't you, Steve?
All right. You know, the police chief, we have a light moment or two, but the police chief makes a good point. You have a good excuse not to go into work if you work downtown tomorrow.
Tomorrow's Friday. He's saying maybe take a 3-day holiday there over the weekend. Hey, let's go to Barbara Wood and check on the Columbia in Vancouver. Hello, Barbara.
Well, the Columbia is definitely in Vancouver. Let's take a look at Columbia way down here. It's looking a lot more like the Columbia River. Can you guys see this fire hydrant here? Just to give you some kind of a perspective of just how high up the water is. It's come all the way up from the Columbia, creeped up Columbia Way, and now starting to creep over Columbia Street. I can't get you a shot of an overpass that is behind us here, but it's also out. They've got all kinds of barricades and police personnel up there trying to keep people out. There's a crew over there. They certainly look official, but I don't know exactly what they're doing. They seem to be surveying the area, just sort of walking around the waterfront, I guess in awe, if nothing else. But they did have their hard hats on, so I'd like to think they're doing something official. It's kind of eerie for me, you guys, because this is pretty much where we started out our day. I'm pretty sure you're looking right at it, that red and gray monument over there. We were standing right there. And when I look at it now, I'm sure that if I were standing there, I'd probably have water that, well, I don't have hip waders and probably be getting in my hip waders if I did. We talked with Clark County Emergency Services. They've had their coordination center going around the clock, just like we have been. They had to do 2 boat rescues. One, a woman who wouldn't leave her house, and then finally when she decided it was time for her to leave, well, of course, she had to leave by boat. And the county is hoping that that doesn't happen to too many other people. And down here along the waterfront, a very key evacuation area, which is this point here, right by the I-5 bridge, south of SR 14, and then over east to Wintler Park. That's the key evacuation area. Everyone is out of there and so far reported safe. Back to Jeff and Paul.
Barbara, your exact location for the folks who are just joining us, you're standing in front of what?
Well, we're right here at the Red Lion Inn at the Key. We're across the street from it. This is their overflow parking area. And overflow, no pun intended, you guys. And we're right at Columbia Way. This is the road that will take you down to the waterfront development, the recent development here in Vancouver, the Chart House, Husong and Larry's, Beaches, McMinimans. It's the place where a lot of people like to go. I could just picture myself zipping down here to some of these restaurants.
I don't know if you were able to...
Can't dip down here now.
Yeah, no, you can't. I don't know if you heard earlier, Barbara, but there's good news on the Columbia River numbers, too, as well as the Willamette. Originally, it was expected to crest at 28.5, and now it's expected to crest at 27 feet, 5 inches. So Columbia also not going to be as high as we originally thought.
Just a little less, but we'll take anything that we get. Hey, up to the minute, every 15 minutes here on Channel 2 during our storm coverage. The latest information coming into the Channel 2 newsroom. I-5 North Ramp to I-84 closed. Important. I-5 North Ramp to I-84 closed. Highway 26 outbound down to 1 lane near the zoo. They have been having problems with the slide there for the last 2 days. And Fanno Creek flooding roads and homes in southwest Portland. We showed you some of the video just a little earlier. Fanno Creek flooding roads and homes in southwest Portland. Up to the minute, every 15 minutes.
We're going to take a break. Before we do, let's go out on a light note. Do you ever wonder who comes up with these T-shirts whenever something happens in our society? Well, we've gotten one. This is for the flood of 1996. Let me get it into view here. This is from the Goldsmith Company, who sent a note to us. Thank you for your up-to-date coverage of the Great Flood of 1996. Their message: history repeats itself.
It certainly does, and that's why we're here tonight. Our storm coverage continues right here on Channel 2. Stay with us, everybody. You're looking at a picture. Our cameras captured a landslide in the hills above Portland. Let's listen in.
Oh, God.
That happened right off of West Burnside, about halfway up West Burnside, coming out of the city. It took out a truck. There was a truck in front of that slide you couldn't see, and there's some of the damage. So we're talking about flooding, and we're talking about some very serious mudslides throughout the region. Welcome back to our storm coverage, the flood of 96. Jeff Gianola, along with Paul Lindman and the entire Channel 2 news team.
One of our storm team members is Ron Carlson. We're going to go to him in a minute downtown. Ron, of course, the sportscaster who you know very, very well, but he's been chasing stories around the region for us as well, and we're going to catch up with Ron in just a moment. A couple of sports-related stories we can share with you as we await word from Ron. We got word earlier today about the Jesuit high school football team out at the Ivy Lake Apartments with Aristotle Thompson, their big running back, who just signed the letter of intent yesterday to Boise State. They're out there sandbagging this afternoon, trying to save an apartment house. Then they go on to McCormick's Restaurant to do the same thing. Then later tonight we saw a video of the Oregon City football team and basketball team as well, removing items from the store out in Oregon City with their coaches. So our sports teams are coming through for us today and helping out just like all the other good citizens around.
Yeah, Leah Hope is standing by down in Salem. Hello, Leah, can you hear us?
I sure can. Good evening to you both, and we're here alongside what should be a dry street, but as we're seeing all over our area, this is the Pringle Creek that has come across Church Street here in Salem, and we've been all over Salem today, all over Marion County, talking about the problems and the different creeks that are flooding. Earlier, we were at another creek, and then, of course, we've been watching the Willamette River, and the Pringle Creek, I never heard of the Pringle Creek before I had come down here until we literally ran right into it. And of course, for some residents down here, this is their big worry.
All this is the parking lot.
When Peggy moved to Salem a year ago, the Pringle Creek was the last thing on her mind. When they said there was going to be rain and there was going to be flooding, did you know it was going to be here?
No, I had no idea. I came back from work yesterday and saw all this stuff going underwater. We picked up my daughter from school and got her to safe ground and my little guy over to Kaiser, thinking that was safe to try to deal with all of this, and then found my basement underwater. And
This is what she found.
About a foot and a half of water, and I'd say within 2 hours we were up to closer to where you see it now.
Trying to stay out. I'm trying to do anything I can for the neighborhood. Anyone that needs help.
The children or teenagers you filmed before, I can't tell you how much they've helped. It's just wonderful, and it's nice to see people giving as opposed to hearing the other side where kids do this or other people do that. There are lots of people that care and try to help.
They are a lot of people here in Salem when we've been walking around and doing these live shots and talking with people that are really in trouble with the water coming up quickly. Wherever we go to the next stop, people are stopping us and saying, where can we go to find that family because we want to help them? And joining me now is a resident now. Ma'am, what is your name?
Dawn Marges.
Dawn, now tell me, you live near Pringle Creek. How fast did it come up?
Well, obviously very quickly, because yesterday it wasn't too bad, and we walked down this morning and the whole road was covered. It was unbelievable. There was no Pringle Park anymore.
Now, what about your house? What kind of situation are you in?
Our house is fine. The water backed up on the cross street near us to about a block away from the house, but our house has been fine. And now the water's gone down a lot, actually, in our neighborhood.
All right. Well, thanks very much, Dawn. Good luck. I know a lot of people are walking by because they can't believe the incredible devastation that has been caused by this. You know, Pringle Creek alone, the road barely impassable. We almost got stuck here. Some kids going by just on a bike. They didn't get stuck, but certainly there's still a very serious problem down here, and certainly we'll let you know what is going on here. Jeff and Paul.
Okay, Leah Hope reporting from Salem tonight. Thanks, Leah, for that information.
We have word now from just north of where Leah is tonight, up the freeway in Wilsonville. The Columbia River Correctional Facility is moving 425 prisoners tonight. They're taking them over to the buildings in Damish, now vacant, and they will be housed there for the next 96 hours because of high water. So the Columbia River Correctional Facility emptying out tonight in Wilsonville due to high water.
Okay, I believe we're going to go to the telephone right now, and we're going to take a call from Salem. I think we have a Barbara